right, so for this edition of Game Masters, we have someone special, a champion UAAP coach who brought a trophy back to Taft Avenue after an epic, record-breaking final series against the University of the Philippines. Of course, I'm talking about none other than DLSU Green Archers champion coach Topex Robinson. Coach,
thank you, Paul.
Thank you very much for being here.
Excited to be here.
Yeah, we have a long time. We have around 45 minutes or so.
Okay.
So I appreciate the time. I appreciate the honesty I know that's going to come from you. And I want to start off first by saying congratulations on that big achievement with LaSalle. Has it worn off yet? I know we're recording this maybe a couple of weeks removed from the championship, but has it sunk in, or are you tired of hearing it?
What's really funny now is you don't really have a picture or a word to describe the feeling. I don't know how it's called, since it's my first time to win a championship in college. So, but I'm not gonna complain.
Yeah.
I'm just so happy that I'm sitting here beside you talking about the season that was.
Yeah, you take a look at the season that was, and the fact that this was your first championship season as a college coach, a championship season in a UAP tournament or in one of the bigger ones. I know you've won a couple of minor trophies in the past. Pero this in particular, when did it feel special? Because there are some moments in the season for any coach when they realize that this team can win a championship.
We had a lot of experiences kasi along the way. I mean, when we were preparing for season 86, we played a lot of games. As in a lot.
Yeah.
Just to get familiar with everybody. Me to them to me. There are a lot of times that I would say those are aha moments. Some are really so small and some are really huge. But if you're gonna sum it up, a lot of particular events just took place that now looking back, yun pala yung mga turning point.
Yeah, I want to look at the way that you coach this team, because as someone who has been covering sports for a very long time, you're a very unique coach, if I do say so myself, based on talking to a lot of people, in the sense that I use the term loving around you. You're a loving coach. And it's such a weird thing to say in a very masculine world, like college basketball, men's college basketball. Just how would you describe the evolution, your own evolution, to becoming that loving coach? Because I know you agree with that definition. I'm not even gonna contend it.
Well, I've been in basketball for a while, and all of my old friends like Enrico Villanueva's, who have known me for the longest time, and I would say one of my closest friends.
Yeah, loving yun.
Yeah, parang he would tell me, bro, parang sabi niya, what change? Kasi the person that I am now and the person that he was close with back then were totally two different persons. I mean, we used to play together when we were in Red Bull. He knows me. He knows how I play, and all of a sudden I kind of like shifted. Sabi niya pa nga down south Parang kasi he was so used to me being aggressive, physical, dirty when I used to play. And all of a sudden I preach love, serve, and care. Parang sa akin, looking back, I kind of ask myself, what changed? But again, a lot of I would say aha moments in my career as a young coach that I told myself that I have to do something. I have to change the ways that I do it, because for me, it's not working.
You mentioned love, serve, care, and that has been the mantra that you've had personally and as a coach ever since your time with Lyceum, if I'm not mistaken, Jen at least sumikat. But I want to bring up the fact that you mentioned it a while ago. You as a player, completely different from you as a coach. How do you connect those two things together? Because if I look back at some of the highlights, you are an angry person. So how do you marry those two?
Yeah, I would say those were the person that I was before and the person that I'm trying to be now depended on the genre or the people that I'm trying to connect with. Back in the days when I used to play, how rough and dirty basketball was back then. So I have to adapt to that. And now what I notice with the generation that I'm leading, especially college, They being hard or butting heads with them will not work. I mean, personally, obviously, I mean, whoever coaches, they have their own ways of coaching. So I'm not really telling that what other coaches are doing are wrong and mine is right. It's just that I have to be natural.
Yeah.
I mean, because you cannot fake it till you make it. You know, the players will know if you're not genuine with them. So I became more decided to be more relational with them and rather to be transactional. So it's challenging because when you say personal, that requires, and you talk about relational, that requires a lot of time,
Yeah.
which again is really of an essence and a scarcity and a commitment. It's hard. I mean, to really have to know them personally, get to know them personally. So that's how everything started. And I just realized that at the end of the day, you're dealing with human beings.
Yeah.
There's the human side to whichever things that you do, and you have to touch upon it.
You're approaching this as a teacher, as an educator almost. I know you're also a student kasi nag-enroll ka sa Lasal, but that's a different story. We're going to talk about that later. The transition into becoming a coach, for some people it's obvious because as a player, they're cerebral, they can't get away from the game, they want to stay in basketball because that's their life, they don't know anything else. What was the main reason for you in particular? Kasi not all players become coaches, and not all players are good coaches, and it turns out that you are.
Yeah, you know, Paolo, this thing, I don't know if you would believe me. The moment I was given the opportunity by Coach Yeng back in 2003. That was my first PBA team.
Yeah.
I already know that I'm gonna be a coach someday.
Really?
Yeah,
03.
that's how looking back, sabi ko, I wanted to be a coach. So, everything that Coach Yeng writes down on the board, I memorize it or I write it down. Because I told myself that if I know I'm gonna be a coach. I don't know if people could relate, but I also already know that someday I'm gonna be a coach. So I've been observing him.
Yeah.
I've been, yun nga, in the first few years of coaching, it's if you're gonna, kung babalatan mo ako, Yenggyaw eh.
Yeah.
Yeah, so and then I have the privilege to be under Coach Ryan, Gregorio, and then my last playing year was with Coach Tim. So when I kind of connected all those dots, and my amateur was with Coach Leo Austria. So ang dami kong pinagdaan ng coaches that really influenced me. And yun na nga, when I retired 2011, up to this point, rare are the times that I would play basketball. And lahat nun, every time I'm on the court, I'm thinking about coaching, not playing. So I really believe that this is really what my purpose or what I really wanted to do in my life.
You know, talk to any young player and you talk to some of the older ones, the retired players, they'll always tell you that you are your college coach. As a player, as a person, when you grow up, you are your college coach because the person that formed you in such a formative stage in your life as a young man, as a person trying to decide what they're going to do in life, probably the voice that they hear the most is going to be the college coach. For you, before I go on to how you feel like you impacted your players, was Coach Leo that voice for you? Because based on, at least, yung kung nakwento mo ngayon, it feels like Coach Yeng has been coming out as a bit of that figure for you.
Sobrang influential sa akin. Not to also name na rin Coach By Cristobal, who was my coach back in San Sebastian. Up to now, I have relationship with. You know, when I make big decisions in my career, in my life, one of those persons will be involved. Kumbaga, I'm sure I'm gonna ask them.
Yeah.
Kasi, just like what you mentioned, ang laki ng impact ng college coach eh. One thing you'll notice, every talk or a speech of an MVP player in basketball, I don't know, in other sport, they will always mention their high school coach or their college coach. So that means yung formative years ng career nila, which is really important, ang laki talaga ng impact ng college coach na or their high school coach or kahit yung barangay liga na coach niya.
Yeah.
They will always remember that eh. So na-stuck sa akin yun na ang laki ng impact ko sa magiging players ko eh. So I have to be careful with the words that will come out of my mouth, the way I respond, I react. Kasi alam ko how impactful it is gonna be for them.
I think it's fair to say, Coach, na sa simula ng career mo, especially with Bastet, I feel na it is almost a polar opposite of how you approach your time with Lyceum and LaSalle. Given that, okay, we understand the insights of what a college coach is, you take a look at that time in particular, what would you say was your mindset when you were in Baste in your first few years leading a team and molding young players?
Ang ano sa akin, Paolo, it came to a point na napagod na ako to pretend to be somebody that I'm not. Kasi parang ang naging ano sa akin, just like what I mentioned, Yeng Giao, he's a character.
Yeah.
I mean, pero siya yun eh. That's him. So kahit pagbalik-balik ta rin may mundo, you will see the same person. Up to now, you know, that strong personality, you see that feistiness, you know, the fears in him. And I try to, sabi ko idol ko siya eh. So sabi ko, Yeng Giao ako.
Yeah.
Sabi ko, sabi ko, paano ba si Coach Yeng dati, ganun. But it came to a point na napagod ako. Na sabi ko, parang hindi mag-work kasi parang hindi totoo eh. Parang hindi ako yun. So, masisense ng players ko.
Yeah.
So, I decided when I went to LPU na I have to be myself. Which, sabi ko, how can I find ways to connect with these players? And one thing siguro rin na naging realization sa akin is when I had that exit interview on my first year in LPU, ang dami kong na-discover sa players ko.
Yeah.
Na some of them, obviously most of them came from the province, so ibig sabihin away from the family. Some of them have walang father figure.
Yeah.
So doon ko na-realize na sabi ko, they're not looking for a coach all this time. Ang hinahanap nila is tatay. So parang if itataboy ko pa sila sa akin, if I'll be the person that I was pretending to be, sabi ko, saan sila pupunta?
Yeah.
So doon ako nagkaroon ng realization at hindi pala ako pang-coach, parang dapat pala barkada o kaya tatay or tito, depending on kung kailan nila ako kailangan.
It's really nice to hear that. And I just want to pull back the curtain a bit kasi I have a bit of insight. Kasi yung dad ko coached against you back in the NCAA for the College of St. Benilde. Yeah. And the problems that he had, apart from the coaching, was managing young players who, as you mentioned, were away from their families, who were trying to figure out life, and all of a sudden, from having just 3 kids at home, my dad all of a sudden had around 30 plus yung mga assistant coaches na parang bata rin. So, when did you make that commitment to be more than a coach? Kasi it is a commitment. It is something that goes deeper than the X's and O's. At alam ko, based on interviewing you all these years, talking to you and talking to your players, that you don't just treat them as a quote-unquote player. There's something else to the point na nag-I love you kayo.
I guess I would say I have to attribute din sa leadership. When I was with LPU, our bosses there, the Laurels, have really been so, I mean, they try to separate also yung position nila as like presidents or managers, but they're so grounded that they treat everybody sa team namin na parang anak din nila. So sabi ko, okay yun na. Parang ganun sila magmahal sa players, sa coaches. So sabi ko, I have to do something. So parang I have to align with the environment that I'm in.
So na-pressure ka?
Hindi eh. But I saw how it worked for the players na different approach. Kumbaga, subukan ko nga to. I mean, and then I really, parang doon ko nahanap yung sarili ko na more than the X and O's, obviously, that's given. With the technology now, I mean, you could find it anywhere. You want a good offense, go search it.
Yeah.
It's gonna be there. But and then when I opened my eyes into it, ang daming nangyari na nagkaroon ng connection na started to attract those people that shares the same vision or has the same approach as mine. So, ayan, automatic, coaches came in, baga parang nag-connect.
Yeah.
Because I was open to that idea.
Love, serve, care. That has been the mantra, the motto. I don't know what word you would actually attribute it, but it has been almost a guiding principle for the way that you coach, for the way that you have been teaching these players ever since LPU. Now, I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say that is the most least masculine term, masculine way of approaching a coaching principle that I've ever heard. How do you get buy-in from young men who approach the sport with all the testosterone in the world, who approach college with all the testosterone in the world, suddenly open up and soften up and accept all of this? Because most, if not all, of the players, at least I have had the chance to see you coach, accepted that.
Well, importante yung buy-in eh. Just like what you mentioned, whatever it is that you wanna throw at them, whatever it is, the only way it's gonna succeed is the buy-in.
Yeah.
You have to live that. Kumbaga, day in and day out, you have to live by your words. Kasi nga, that's where integrity comes in. It's gonna test you a lot of times. You know, flattening the hierarchy is one. You know, being a servant leader is one. And sabi ko nga sa'yo kanina, ang daming oras namin magkakasama ng players eh.
Yeah.
And I have to really be committed to it. Kasi kung hindi, sasabihin nila fake.
Yeah.
So, I'm not saying love, serve, ibig sabihin, love, kiss,
Yeah.
hug.
Yeah.
There's a time that you have to throw in, you know, you have to really, kumbaga, you could get mad at them, fight, bicker, butt heads, but kung na-build nyo yung relationship kasi, alam nila kung bakit mo ginagawa sa kanila. Just the way we treat our children. Na kahit ano mangyari, ang gusto ko naman is para sa ikakabuti mo eh.
Yeah.
So, that's where, yun na nga, you have to be relational. You have to really be also vulnerable to them. I mean, kumbaga, ibababa mo talaga yung level mo to the level na they would feel na totoo ka.
Yeah.
And it happened with DLSU at the start. When I was talking about it, I could see eyes rolling.
Yeah.
I mean, I could test that the room is not, and sabi ko nga, it's a sobrang daming effort that you have to put in.
You know, again, the buy-in, super important. The way that you approach the coaching, you know, we can go into the X's and O's later on and all of the trials and tribulations, especially with regards to the result. But the way that you've coached has been very cerebral, very mental, to the point that you were one of the few coaches that I know who actually would coach the mind psychologically, get them ready for different situations, and employing experts to actually do it. That was one of the standing points of the Lyceum back when you were coaching them. At what point did you feel that, okay, I need to do this as well? Not only does it fit with the philosophy of love, serve, care, and being mental, being more empathetic, but at what point did you feel that this has to be another part of the coaching that I have to emphasize?
One of the things that I've discovered then is, first, you don't have to pretend that you know everything. And if you don't know it, you don't have to live like, you know, you thought that, you know, you have to know everything. Kumbaga, you need help.
Yeah.
I mean, doing this cannot be done by myself alone. Because it's gonna be a lot of hard work.
Yeah.
Because I have to shy away from the X and O's in order for me to really focus on being relational with them.
Yeah.
That's why when I hire my support, I don't hire an assistant coach. I always make it a point that I'm gonna get another head coach.
Yeah.
So when you say another head coach, that means you're gonna give him a responsibility as if he's the head coach of the team. So that's how I really like do away with being, kasi in practice, Paulo, I don't usually handle practice the way coaches really handle it.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're gonna be at our practice, you would see me just walking around.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll be at the stairs, just watching, observing, looking at body language. I have a keen eye on looking at everybody.
Yeah.
Body, because they cannot, kumbaga, doon ko makikita where they are, where state they are at this very moment. If we are winning, I would observe if are they jolly, are they really enjoying it. If I see somebody there that's struggling,
yeah, and not struggling, not in the sense na the way that they play, but
that
more
could
of,
be a part of it.
Okay.
In general.
Yeah,
so if I see that person na medyo iba dun sa usual flow ng environment namin sa team, I would approach that person and I would already know that he's struggling.
Yeah.
And I have to sit him down, talk to him about it. Having those, I guess one of the things then that I've been practicing or hopefully doing well is having those difficult conversations.
Is there a moment or siguro, you don't have to name names, coach, because it is very personal, especially your communication with the players. But was there a certain issue na nagulat ka that you're a part of this conversation, this person's life, and you're there as a basketball coach?
Sobra, ang dami. Kasi, eto, before, when you don't have that kind of relationship with the players, if the player comes in late, sasabihin nila sa'yo, coach, traffic eh.
Yeah.
Which is the usual, or yung alarm ko, hindi tumunog, or na-snooze ko, or something like that. But once you have that relationship with them, when they tell you that they were late, it's because may problema sa girlfriend.
Yeah.
Nag-away si mommy, daddy. Wala akong baon, hindi ako nabigyan ng ano. So that's a point wherein they really trust you with their lives. Kasi for them to open up way deeper than what they usually just the surface, what they share you now is malalim.
Yeah.
And that's a time that you know that pinagkakatiwalaan ako nitong batan to.
I want to use that moment and now shift it to a part of your career wherein you moved on to coaching professional level. You were with Phoenix Super LPG, and the coaching environment, as we all know, completely different. The stakes, completely different. The characters, completely different, because you're no longer molding young men. You're now working with grown man children. Sometimes, alright, not everyone is not everyone's like that, but I know you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But how does this all fit in with your approach to the game, your philosophy, knowing that let's be very frank about it, coach, it's not going to work or as well as it did in the college level, because these are men who have already formed and not just forming.
Well, I kind of broke it down to two personalities. So in college, you build character. Because yun na nga, we were talking about earlier na you're trying to build them. Kumbaga, yung mga pieces na yun, ikaw ang magbubuo nun eh. So you build character.
Yeah.
In the pros, just like what you mentioned, made na to eh.
Yeah.
You're managing character. So they have their own issues in life. Most of them are fathers already.
Yeah.
And then they have their careers that eto na yung bread and butter nila. Not like in college, there are still other options.
Yeah.
Dito sa PBA kasi sa pros talagang eto na eh. I mean, so you have to manage it.
Yeah.
And college kasi you're building it. So two different approaches, but at the end of the day, Paulo, you're still dealing with human beings. So doon nagkakaroon ngayon ng connection yung dalawang yun. So now as a coach, you have to really go deep in knowing them also. When I was coaching Phoenix during that time, it was really a learning experience for me. You know, the blessing there siguro, Pao, that I would say during that pandemic is we stayed in one place for a long time.
Quest.
Yeah. So whether they like it or not, 24/7 magkakasama kami. So I was fortunate enough na nagkaroon ako ng maraming oras sa kanila.
Yeah.
With my players. So I get to really know them, and then ang dami I guess one of the highlights of my coaching career was that bubble season, because ang bilis nung transition ko nun from being an assistant to a head coach kasi nandun kami palagi.
Yeah.
Not like in the pros kasi, like after practice, kanya-kanya na yan.
Yeah.
So, no choice sila sa akin eh. They'll be with me whether they like it or not for how long was that? 3 months? So, I get to know them, na-practice ko yung mga natutunan ko with them. So, naging ginipig ko yung mga players ko sa Phoenix.
Yeah.
And up to now, we have that kind of relationship pa rin eh. Even though I'm not with them anymore, but even the coach is there. Kumbaga, I still have a relationship with. So doon na develop lalo. Kumbaga doon ko na practice.
Yeah, I remember that bubble season in particular because everyone remembers it. Because Quest is now infamous in the PBA annals of history. But the way that you approach that particular group, would you say nabigyan ka ng siguro ng, I don't know, almost a free pass to treat pros like college students, and that made your transition easier as a professional coach?
Absolutely, because yun na nga, wala silang ibang kawala eh. Kumbaga, whether they like it or not, it's either they knock on my door or I knock on their door. So, and that was already before, I was already coaching LPU, and I already have that kind of approach in coaching.
Yeah.
So it's just a matter of me applying it now to those, those grown men.
Yeah.
So that's where it happened.
So I want to ask you, because you're almost a father figure, if not a father figure, to the likes of a CJ Perez and San Miguel, because of that relationship in LPU. How would you describe your relationship to a Jason Perkins, to a Matthew Wright, to those guys? Because I wouldn't say father figure, probably. Yeah. How would you describe it?
That's where I put in a different hat. Mm-hmm. Just like what I was saying kanina, I could be your coach, I could be your tito, I could be your brother, I could be your father. Yeah. So it depends on the person that I'm dealing with. Like a Matthew Wright, I mean, he's a character.
Super.
When I say character, he's a winner. He'll find ways to win. And I have to adjust. And then eventually, he started to also, realize na, okay, hindi pala kalaban to si coach eh. Mm-hmm. But we always fight. That's everybody knows that. Yeah. I'm not afraid to say that. When I say fight, that means hindi naman kami, there's still gonna be the respect part.
Yeah.
We respect each other's capabilities. But most importantly, we respect each other's human beings. So, si Jason naman, Perkins, iba naman yun. He always tells stuff, always challenges me, but at the end of the day, I let him figure it out by himself.
Yeah.
There are a lot of times during games, coach, and then I would just look at him and I wouldn't say a word and say, oh, okay, I figured it out. So that's kumbaga different strokes for different folks.
Yeah. Tama.
So you don't really have a fixed formula, but you have to really adapt to that person and try to go deep to him.
Yeah.
Ikaw dapat ang pumasok sa kanya and not expect him to come up to you, because at the end of the day, you mentioned that those testosterones, it's always gonna be there.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of how can you navigate your way that you could slowly step aside those testosterones and go directly to that person.
Yeah.
Which is really a challenge.
Of course. And that time in Phoenix, probably some people might feel was a bit too short because you had a talented group that was growing. In fact, we're seeing Perkins grow into more of a leader right now in particular. And some of the younger guys there who you still handled are now growing into their own in the PBA. In fact, number 2 ngayon as of recording. But that call to go join LaSalle, that I am sure caused you a lot of anxiety in terms of thinking about it. Kasi if you coach LaSalle, and I'm speaking as a LaSallian, you're not just coaching a basketball team.
Yeah.
You're coaching a basketball team and you're managing so many people's expectations. Mm-hmm. Alumni, the Office of Sports Development, the players, and their parents. What was going through your head that you decided you were crazy enough to take on one of the most, sabihin na natin, lucrative, but at the same time, volatile jobs in Philippine basketball?
I'll never forget, Paolo, when I first guested in your show, the time that I took the LaSalle job, and you reminded me of the same words. And who wouldn't? Yun ang ano ko eh. I mean, I go on the other route. Who wouldn't coach a team that has a rich basketball tradition?
Yeah.
A team that has won a lot of championships, that has produced a lot of, known players. Sabi ko, this opportunity is everybody wants to be coaching in this team, and sabi, who am I to not take this opportunity when the opportunity presented itself? Talking about the pressure, it's a given, but what we did with our program is we made sure that we kept our circle solid. When you say our circle, it's the staff, the players, the whoever's involved directly with the team, to make it, I guess, challenge proof. Because you're gonna get into a lot of challenges when you're when you're not only coaching DLSU but you're playing for DLSU.
Yeah.
So we really build that culture wherein we have that circle of safety, that we have to make sure that we're gonna be a united front no matter what. And yun ang ano namin is we always want to stay united when we are doing well. We most likely have to stay together when the ship is really shaking.
Yeah.
So it took everybody, and it cannot be only done by one person, but every person on the team has to take part in order for us to protect that team, because it's really gonna be challenging. We know what we signed up for. I know what I signed up for. But I also know that there's the high risk and the high reward to it. And I took the bait or the gamble to go into that program, which I know that could make or break me. Walang in between kasi dun eh.
I just want to recap that you did walk the talk of hiring co-head coaches to the point that you had a former PBA head coach in Coach Kaloy Garcia come in and join the program, and of course try to bring glory back to LaSalle. But let's talk about the tools that you have, because we have to talk about Kevin Cambao, who, as a person, as a human being, hasn't been documented as much, but has a very different family life compared to a lot of people who are in the college scene right now. His mom lives in Japan. He does not live with his parents. He stays further away. And at the same time, you decided to be in the same dorm and he cannot escape you kasi kapitbahay mo siya. And not only that, you enrolled in LaSalle as a student. So in other words, batchmate mo siya in a certain sense. How important were all those touch points to get through to the first local MVP that we've had? Because we all know that supremely confident siya. He said in his rookie year, gusto niya maging rookie MVP. Did not happen. But the messages posted by yourself and him, saying that you love each other, saying that you looked at all these goals way back when, that a championship was the goal and all came through, it feels different the way your relationship and to him works. It's not just parent, father, basketball coach. How would you describe it? How would you put it all together? Kasi para ang daming touch points eh. I don't know how to explain it. I'd rather you go.
Wow. Yeah, that's really a long, I guess 1 hour is not enough. But
yeah, I know. We only have like 10.
If we're gonna sum it up, I think the first time that my name was mentioned on that list, and it's not a short list, just like what they said.
Yeah.
He messaged me and already told me how excited he was to have me. Sabi ko nga, Kevin, wala pa. Kasi we were together when I was with LPU and he was with the Junior Pirates. But we didn't really have a chance to really work together. But
yeah.
So sabi niya, Coach, dalahin mo dito yung love serve care, ha?
Excited siya.
Excited. And then, ang dami yun ng tanong. Ang dami yun na. It keeps bugging me. Him and Evan has been bugging me.
Yeah.
Because nothing official yet. But the moment it was official, he told me, Coach, magcha-champion tayo. That I'll never forget that. But I always said, lahat naman ng players, sinabihan na ako niyan eh.
Mm-hmm.
But every morning, sabi mo nga, roommates pa kami. I mean, dorm mates.
Dorm mates,
Kasi
yeah.
pagbukas mo ng door ko, siya na yung makikita mo eh. So same goes with him. He's always at the gym kasi we have a gym beside our dorm. Umaga pa lang nandun na siya. Like, I'll never forget that. He's always there every single morning waiting. Parang inaantay niya akong lumabas.
Yeah.
Para makita niya na, oh, nag-workout. Parang ganun ba? And then, everybody knows that he's talented.
Yeah.
You know, his stint with Gilas, you know, I was a big fan. But he started putting in the work. He really put in so much, he really invested himself and he didn't just said it, he worked on it. He really walked the talk. He really put in so much investment in it, to a point na I was so trusted in him that sometimes I get so excited during games na sasabihin, Coach, kalma ka lang.
Yeah.
Parang kasi the pressure. And then when kakaroon kami ng challenges, he would approach me, Coach, kalma ka lang.
He would tell you.
Yeah.
Okay, kasi that leads me to my next question. Because your approach is very different, but it has not resulted in a championship prior to this year.
Mm-hmm.
You've always had supremely talented players. In LPU, you had CJ Perez, who at that time was by and far, statistically speaking, and impact on the court, the best player in the league. Now you had Kevin Cambao, who became the first local MVP. Did you ever feel that the ability to win was a bit beyond the philosophy, despite the talent? Because that was actually a question. You could go into the internet and see the memes of your coaching record. It's talking about how you were always the bridesmaid and not the bride. So, I mean, has that ever crept into your mind, and how did you handle that?
I would lie to you if I tell you na hindi. You know, it came to a point that I always question myself that, am I really made for this?
Mm-hmm.
You know, I really get to question, like, ano ba talaga ang plano? Kasi, you know, I mean, with Calvin was an MVP.
Yeah.
We didn't win a championship. CJ Perez was an MVP. We didn't win a championship. Tapos eto na naman. And losing game 1 of the finals by 30 points was really something that...
As a Lasal, I'm telling you right now, it wasn't great.
Yeah. I mean,
not great.
wow, you could say that again. So, there was questions. I was doubting. And I'll never forget Kevin messaged me after that game that sabi niya, Coach, sorry Sabi niya, babawi ako, magcha-champion tayo.
Mm-mm.
I'll never forget that. And then, sabi ko nga, ikaw nang bahala. You know, this is the time that I said, ako naman yung kailangan ng tulungan mo ako. Parang gano'n na yung sinasabi ko. And when he said that, that gave me the, okay, so there's still hope.
How did the championship vindicate yung approach mo?
Sobrang nakatulong siya because I was questioning already myself na mag-work ba talaga yung love serve care, yung love you na yan, yung yakapan na yan, yung hawakan ng kamay na yan, yung high five na yan, yung ngitian na yan. Kasi at the end of the day, you need to produce a proof that your system is working by winning a championship. It has eluded me for years. After game 1 of the finals was my 7th straight finals loss. Because I was swept when I was San Sebastian. Twice I was swept with LPU. Pampito na yung game 1. And I really said that if it's really meant to happen, you know, a higher being will take over. And that was the moment that I believed that it was our destiny to win a championship.
Yeah.
You know, not only for DLSU, just like what you mentioned, not only for the players, but also, I guess, for me, that's been preaching it and questioning it. And obviously, there's a lot of people saying, di naman yun, sanay na yan, palagi na lang yun, just like what you mentioned. But sabi ko nga, I'll keep on holding on to my faith.
Did you have horrible flashbacks? I'm sorry for that question, but did you have horrible flashbacks when you lost game 1 of the finals by 30 after going on a long win streak to that season where you went 17-0, I believe, in LPU? And
That was
that's what-
18-0.
18-0 rather.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. 18-0 and then lost the finals. Was the feeling similar? The same? Was the fear there? Kasi I could only imagine seeing it twice. Once was enough. Pero it felt like a second coming of that in that moment, outside looking in. So internally, how was that for you? And I'm sure it wasn't just a message from Kevin that snapped you back into place.
That's a good question, by the way. And when we were winning in the eliminations, and pretty much we were already assured that we're gonna make it to Final Four. Our few remaining games, I was hoping na matalo kami. Just so it's gonna stop
Yeah.
the winning streak,
Okay.
keep us grounded, and I could tell the players that this will be our preparation for the finals or the Final Four. But it never happened.
Yeah.
Because these guys are really, they were finding ways to win.
Yeah.
And yes, you were right. Nagkaroon na naman ng repeat performance, but I was really blocking it. I was in denial. I was in full denial that this is not gonna happen. Come on, Topex, hindi yan mangyayari. Huwag ka maniwala. Until that interview after the game 1, a friend of ours from the press pulled me aside and told me about it. So after that interview, dala ko siya hanggang umuwi ng bahay, hanggang, which is hindi nga ako natulog kasi hindi ako makatulog.
Yeah.
But it was haunting me.
Yeah.
Eto na naman. And yeah, really, I was so scared that it's gonna happen again.
Oh my goodness. Buti lang it did not. That achievement, I'm sure, for those wondering why we're not talking about the X's and O's a lot, it's because the unique part about Coach Topex and his approach to the game just goes so far beyond the X's and O's. Sabi nga niya kanina, you can go through technology and develop offenses by looking at how people do it, the defense as well, but then getting the buy-in is different, and that's why we approach this interview that way. Now, again, thank you very much for joining us here sa Game Masters, but at the same time, we want to go into the questions that casual fans want answers to. And that will be, ano mangyayari next season? Kasi Kevin Cambao's coming back, pero wala na kayong gwardiya. Evan Nelle moving on as well. And when I say wala na kayong gwardiya, obviously meron kayong gwardiya. But the big name, the one that is probably most certainly going to lead the team from the guard position is super important for LaSalle. Because when Evan Nelle was not there were struggles. So what's next for LaSalle? How do you move on from this? How do you develop from this?
It's exciting. Actually, during the finals or the Final Four, I was already ahead of time. I was already discussing to the coaches na, we have to get this or we have to prepare this guy. And then sometimes Coach Carlo would tell, Coach, nandito pa tayo sa season 86 ha.
Yeah.
So that's how advanced I was of thinking of, just like what you said, Evan is Evan. Mark Nonoy will be Mark Nonoy. And there's no way in this world that I could find somebody who's gonna replace them. But I'm excited because I know that I still have those guys like Josh David, JC Makalalad, CJ Austria. Yes, they might not be guards, but I know that whoever's gonna come in as a rookie for us at that position to be, back-upping Josh David will make sure that he'll be in a position that we will make sure to put him in a situation that he will also be a big part of our program. It's really gonna be exciting. Actually, KQ nga nagsasabi, Coach, kung walang point guard, pwede naman ako maging point guard. And I wouldn't be surprised.
I was gonna suggest that actually.
I wouldn't be surprised that he might even be put in that position.
Yeah, I see that also from a complete basketball nerd perspective. But then just to wrap things up here, Coach, for those wondering about the challenge of repeating compared to breaking through as a champion. I know it's a completely different. You've never gotten to that position yet, but how are you approaching it as we wrap this up?
We will not defend the crown since we're talking about season 87 already. So we are making sure that we're not gonna talk about it. Yes, it's gonna be there. It's gonna be asked, but we just want to be 1% better than season 86. That's how we always approach things in our team. we only focus on the things that we have control of, and that's us. How we're gonna grow, how we're gonna develop, how we're gonna be a team that we really wanted to be. How winning, or how the culture that we're building, that winning will be the byproduct of that. So those are the controllables for us, and we're not gonna go outside of those parameters
Yeah.
of how to build a team now that lost 5 players. How can we keep that mantra alive? It's gonna be a torch that's gonna be passed to the new guys that we're gonna have. And one thing that I'm excited about is because I know I'm gonna have support.
Yeah.
I know that I'm gonna have people beside me, around me, that will always make sure that we will keep that fire burning.
Coach, again, congratulations on the last
Thank you.
championship. We really appreciate the time, the honesty. I had no doubt that you were going to be honest, so I really appreciate that. Thank you, and of course, good luck for next season,
Thank you,
because
thank you.
it is in my own interest that mag-champion ulit yung Rizal. So maraming salamat, Coach. I really appreciate
Thank you, Animo.
Animal Rizal. Of course, you can catch our long conversations with the country's game masters on Pilipinas Live for the ultimate sports viewing experience. Download Pilipinas Live at Google Play and the App Store and register now for free. Once again, I'm Paolo De Rosario. That was Coach Topex Robinson, and thank you very much for joining us on the long conversation, Game Masters.